everybody, welcome back to the channel for another video today, and welcome to a breaking news story. It's been a while since I have done one of these on my channel, pretty much back since when all of the major lawsuit in terms of tirzepatide stuff was going down. But today I have another major update and major step in the fight of compounded tirzepatide and affordability and access and all of that. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right on into it. You may have heard that Eli Lilly has issued another round of lawsuits, and this time they are coming after specific telehealth companies. Yes, 4 major telehealth companies have received lawsuit papers from Eli Lilly alleging that their practices of prescribing the medication is unsafe and that the altercations that are being made are not up to safety standards. So it seems to be that the main companies that are affected this time are ones that are utilizing 503A formulations, which a lot of people assumed was going to happen, right? The 503As that are still practicing and still creating tirzepatide are altering them in some way. So they're adding vitamin B12, they're altering dosages, stuff like that. Whereas 503Bs that are still continuing to compound are doing so under a different set of laws than what 503As, just based on what they both participate in within the FDA regulations all across the board within their compounding business, right? So the 4 companies that have been called out by Eli Lilly this time are Willow Health, Mochi Health, which maybe that lends a explanation as to why they have remained so quiet the last few weeks, Henry Meds, which I am surprised about, and then Fella and Delilah, which is one that I've actually never heard of previously. So here's the thing about this. So Eli Lilly is alleging in this lawsuit, they're taking a little bit of a different approach. Whereas with like Empower and Strive, when they sued them, it was basically on the safety of the medication itself. The lawsuit papers for this go around seem to include a lot more wording in regards to the prescribing of the medicine. So essentially they are alleging that the prescriptions are being sort of just written using a blanket statement to everybody, and that there's not much thought and individualism going in by these providers to make sure that the person they're prescribing to is really a great candidate for it. So essentially they're saying that you do a short form, med form on the internet, and then you have a consult with a doctor that pretty much uses a blanket statement and prescribes it to you. Now, they're alleging that this is unsafe and that it can lead to a lot of people being prescribed the medication that might not have qualified for it otherwise, because obviously I guess you could open up a whole can of worms with that. But what I find interesting with this, so essentially they're saying that these doctors and the telehealth companies are pushing people away from brand into the compounded version through the over prescription writing for the compound medications that they're doing using a blanket sort of process for everybody. Okay, what I find really interesting about this, and Dave over at On the Pen actually touched on this in his video as well, but I have a bit of a different perspective or a bit of a personal experience with this coming from somebody who used to work in a doctor's office. I've kind of mentioned that before, but prior to me having all of my children, I worked in patient care in the doctor's office. I worked for an ENT clinic, which is ears, nose, and throat. Now that same clinic is an eye, ear, nose, and throat, so sometimes it confuses me. But at that time they were ear, nose, and throat. And so I dealt with a lot of pharmaceutical reps coming in for drug lunches and medication pushing. And so I have a little bit of a firsthand experience with this. So what Dave was mentioning in his video is that for years and years and decades, you've had pharmaceutical reps coming into doctors' offices and providing big catered lunches. Let me tell you that we had a catered lunch 3 to 4 days every single week. And it would be like from a full-on restaurant. You would look at the Texas Roadhouse menu and pick a meal that you wanted. You'd put your order in and this farm rep would bring it all to you. So for me specifically, we're talking meds like Nasonex and Flonase and albuterol inhalers and Zyrtec. That was actually when Zyrtec came out when I was doing this. So you would have these farm reps come in, they would provide this huge lunch. They would have all of the doctors, the providers for that clinic in a meeting with usually the office manager and the patient coordinator and insurance person, which was me. And so I would be in a lot of these meetings, and they would pitch their medicine to them, and they would oftentimes offer the physician incentives to prescribing their medicine. Yes, doctors used to be, I can't speak for right this very second, but I'm sure it has not changed much. It's probably only gotten worse. Were paid to prescribe certain medications, incentivized to prescribe certain medications, okay? So then you would have the doctors, the physicians that would go out and say, hey, you should try Nasonex for your allergies. I have a 30-day sample, and then I'm gonna write you a prescription for that medicine, and you can go and try it out. So for years, pharmaceutical companies have been pushing their medicine in a way that leads to more sales for them, okay? So it's very, very, very similar to what these telehealth companies are doing now, pushing their compounded versions of the medication. And so, it's interesting that now that it's being used against a pharmaceutical company, so now that, it's not for Eli Lilly, because one thing that Dave said, which I thought was really, really great as well, was that if these companies were pushing branded versions of medicine, so like Ro that promotes Eli Lilly Direct and all of that, do you think that they would be suing them? Absolutely not. And they could be pushing those medicines in the very same way that they are prescribing the compounded versions, and Eli Lilly would not bat an eye. So it's just when it does not benefit them that they're coming out and claiming this. So it's not even so much the lawsuit of the safety of the medications as much as it is the prescribing process and how the medications end up reaching the patient that they are alleging is unsafe. Again, though, for decades and decades, they've gone in and literally paid doctors to prescribe their medicine, and 9 times out of 10, the doctors don't know anything about this medicine and don't do any real research on it. We would like to think that they do and that they know things about it, but it's unfortunately just the state of American medicine that money talks. So Mochi Health has actually issued a bit of a statement about this already, which is, again, quite interesting because they have been so silent for weeks and weeks about people who have had issues with their medicine since Akita closed, but they have said that they are confident in their process and they do not anticipate any disruption to their prescribing and fulfilling of orders process. That is what Mochi Health has said about it. None of the other ones have come out yet, but I can tell you that on my personal Facebook, I get ads for Henry meds, for all of them, for Ro, for Mochi, literally multiple times a day, every time I try to go on Facebook. Thankfully, this round of lawsuits does not involve companies that are utilizing 503B pure versions of tirzepatide. So, as always, I have a link down to Orderly Meds below, which uses a 503B and is currently selling through pre-made, the ones that they made prior to the March 19th deadline, pre-made pure tirzepatide, and they are going to sell that until it runs out, and then they're going to be shifting to some more options that are going to be FDA compliant. They are really taking their time and going through with lawyers and all of the processes to make sure that they remain FDA compliant through the shift. But right now they are selling up to 4-month orders. The current bud dates for their vials are August the 1st. So you can purchase up to 4 months right now, is from everything that I've been told. So if you still want some and you're with Willow or Mochi or Henry or Fella and Delilah, switch on over to Orderly. I have a link in my description down below. They're great. One thing that I want, maybe I shouldn't really say this, but I think that you get what you pay for. And yes, there are companies that are cheaper, but again, I think that you overall get what you pay for. So what do you think about this? What do you think about these lawsuits coming out? Do you think that they're going to go after the 503B ones next? I think that they can't in this window because it all was mass produced prior to the March 19th deadline. And so I think it's once they run out of that stock, that you're going to start seeing what these telehealth if and how and why Eli Lilly proceeds going forward. But what do you think about the turn of events on why the lawsuit was filed? Y'all know sometimes my brain don't work the way it's supposed to, but you know, again, away from the safety of the medication itself onto the prescribing process. What do you think about that? Do you think that Eli Lilly has a point here or a foot in the game? They're also still trying to silence most content creators. Again, if you are a content creator or you're on TikTok and you talk about it, I highly recommend that you look into the Fair Use Act and really familiarize yourself with it so that if you do receive action, that you are able to handle it in the best way possible for you. But yeah, I would highly recommend reading up on the Fair Use Act and what you are and are not legally allowed to do and say. They don't own the name tirzepatide. And so I think that that is a scare tactic in a lot of ways. So definitely look into that if you're a content creator. That's a good little bit of tidbit information there for you. YouTube actually has a pretty big section on legality and stuff that is available to you in the Creator Studio that you can go and read up on the Fair Use Act, and a simple Google search could help you with that as well. So that is my video for today. Let me know what your thoughts are. This was not supposed to be my video for today. I was going to be filming the GLP-1 discussions episode for this week. I'm going to film it right after this, and that one will go up tomorrow on Thursday. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you are with one of those telehealth companies, if you are going to be shifting and looking elsewhere. I would love to know. And as always, we would love to have you at Orderly. I have a link down below. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.